Today I'll be explaining about one of the project uh, where I have used a Cognee uh, for retrieving data from PDF. Basically, here in this project, I have taken a set of machine learning textbooks and made them into a knowledge graph, and later we can ask any question based on these four textbooks and get the solution for that. Let me show you a short demo. Is the lasso and rich regression from geometric constraint and explain how constraint affects sparsity. Okay, we have the we can see a very detailed answer uh, by the chatbot. How how clearly it says no later on. So let me show you how we can build this project based on the knowledge graph. Yeah, let's get started. Before we start, let me show you the data set what I'm considering. That is, those are ML textbooks. Those one is called famous textbook Pattern Recognition and Machine Learning by Christopher M. Bishop, and a very famous deep learning textbook. Each textbooks are currently around 700 to 800 pages textbooks. So these are very large data to get. If in case we are taking this data and uploading to the chat, uploading to uh, any of the LLMs and directly asking the questions, the relevance of getting the answers would be just 5%. That is what the claim of the Cognate is, uh, that the relevance of directly asking the questions is just 5%, and using of RAG, by using of RAG, it's also possible to get the solution, but using knowledge graph can give a very relevant answers and also a very deep and reasoning based answers. So these are the four textbooks which I have considered for this project. So let me explain in short like how knowledge graphs work. Basically, if you consider any unstructured data where there are a lot of text and numbers, tables, such data which is not at all in a great structure, but using knowledge graph can be very helpful for making an unstructured data into very structured manner. For example, now since I have taken four textbooks and I have used a function called Cognify. First, I have added the data of those PDF into Cognii. Then I have a function called as Cognify to make all the PDF into a knowledge graph. Later, I'll be showing all the code where exactly how step by step I have made that knowledge graph. So here you can see how the uh, each each chapter or each subject or each element or node are have been decided, and the concept of those textbooks are related to each other. So when you see here machine learning is a part, when you say machine learning has a subject has a chapter of pattern recognition, elements of statistical learning, regression analysis, all those kinds of, and how you can also see how they are related. So when you uh, it's something like pattern recognition is a subset of machine learning, uh, and in the concept it comes as data science is a concept, machine learning is a concept, pattern recognition is a concept. So this is how the data is being being uh, put into a knowledge graph when using the library Cogni. Yeah. So by doing this, you can clearly easily retrieve. For example, if you ask any question which is related to machine learning and data science when you say regression analysis. So both the concept can be intellect of two different textbooks, and the answer given by the LLM would be more relevant and just more it will be excellent one. Yeah. So that's about knowledge graph. So this is how what you can see how the project is like. Basically, this user interface where I have considered a vanilla, uh, uh, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Using the browser, you can ask, yeah, from the browser you ask the question. I have used a backend as for the fast API server, which will call the app.py, and later from the knowledge graphs, using the Cognee.search function, I can ask the question and get a very relevant answer from those knowledge graph which have built which is built from four textbooks, and later the relevant answer will be fetched and will be returned back to the user. This is how the architecture of this simple architecture of this project is. I have written a very in detailed README file for this project. You can clearly go through each of the dependencies and whatever you need for this project, and you can just clone the project and run it in your local. The only thing is you just need a OpenAI API key that has to be put in your .env file. That has to put into your .env file with a variable I have mentioned uh, in the repository. So let's quickly jump into the code. Yeah, starting with the knowledge graph. Here in this knowledge graph, knowledge underscore graph.py file, I have put all the first of all, we have to put your API key in .env file. I'll be cropping it later. Okay. Yeah. Here is the list of all the textbooks I have kept in my ML textbooks folder. Then later do cognii.prune. What it does is it clears off all the previous knowledge graphs that I have built in my memory. It will just clear off everything and then I add the use cogni.add to take all this PDF into Cognify into the Cogni. Later, when I use the cogni.cognify, this and all four of the PDFs gets into the knowledge graph, and the knowledge graph is created here, and later I have for the visualization purpose I have saved it in the file in a HTML file, which I will be showing now. So this is the file where the entire four textbooks knowledge graphs has been stored. Let me dive into the next file where this graph, what I have stored is stored in a temporary memory, and using the app.py, what I'm doing is I'm using one more function over here called as cognii.search, where the user query is sent and that is stored in the result, and later I'm showing the result in this front end. Later on, all the front end part, all the front end dependent front end UI part is in index.html, and in static folder you can see script.js and styles.css, which I'll be sharing, which I have already pushed in my code. You can see it later. But basically, this is what the code is about, the functionality of this project is. So let's quickly see how well our project is working right now, how well the project is by asking a very sophisticated and very difficult questions on based on these four textbooks. For example, if I'm trying to ask any of the derivations or any complex equation explanations, let's see what this does. So this is the question I'll be pasting right now. Derive the posterior predictive distribution from biased linear regression and explain how it differs from MAP estimation. This is one of the concept of uh, the statistical and probability derivation. Let's see how this answers. Yeah, yeah. So you can see how well the knowledge graph is trying to get the equation, trying to get the relevant data from the textbook. So you can see in biased linear equation, the posterior pretty much clear about the answer and the differences of MAP estimations. Yeah. Let's try one or two more questions. So this is the second question in the context of kernel methods. Derive the dual form of SVM objective and explain the role of kernel trick. So this is concept of the dimensionality reduction methods from machine learning. So let's see how it answers. Yeah. So you can see the how in the concept of kernel, see how clearly the solutions are coming up from the textbooks, like very clear and crisp on the point of the equation, on the point of equation, and how well the uh, explanation is. Yeah, let's go to the try on the other question. Analyze the role of different regularization technique L1, L2, dropout, no, batch normalization, compare there. This comes in the part of regularization in machine learning textbooks. So those who know machine learning, they will be knowing these terms. Let's see how Cognee is able to answer this. Basically, behind the scenes of Cognee, there are different models which are running. Currently, the model what I by default is running is OpenAI 4.0 Mini. So basically, it is the one which is able to behind the scenes about chunking the data and forming the knowledge graph. Later on, it is how it's able to get the data, retrieve the data from the knowledge graph. See, yeah, yeah, look at how clear and crisp uh, the answer is. So the link of the repository of this project will be shared in the description.